Grab a pint, grab your lineup. We're about to tap into fantasy. Welcome back to Tap Into Fantasy, the podcast with a professional fantasy mind and an amateur beer palate. I'm Lance Gandy. You can find me on X at LG_fantasy. Today's episode has everything you need for survival up north. Strong opinions, a beer that makes you pucker, and probably a few jokes that won't age well. We're breaking down the NFC North, where the Bears rebuild every year like it's a hobby. The Vikings try to convince us J.J. McCarthy is the next chosen one, and the Lions try to finally get over the hump for the first time, well, ever. To keep me company, I've got a True Anomaly Ambrosia Reserve on hand, a fodder-aged saison with blackberries, ginger, lime, and rooibos tea. It's sour, complex, and honestly should pair pretty well with cheeseheads. I've never been into sour beers, so my faces in this one are more than enough to stay tuned. So before we dig into who's breaking out and who's breaking down, let's raise a glass the right way. May the best drafts of your past be the worst of your future. Let's tap in. It's time to see what the keyboard warriors have to say about this Ambrosia Reserve. These are real Untappd reviews, because some people take tasting notes more seriously than their taxes. It's time once again to unveil the scrolls of the booze realm. Okay, so I had to switch things up on this segment this week because this beer is relatively new with just a few ratings, and those people that did give ratings were all well-adjusted and normal, which certainly won't do. That would have put you asleep in 2 seconds. So I hopped on Yelp to just look at reviews of the brewery itself, which is in Houston, Texas. Here's the first review. The beers and cheese curds were good, but the staff let a dog remain in the bar that kept actively barking at and trying to bite people that happened to walk anywhere near it. Imagine trying to enjoy your flight of sours while playing a real-life game of The Floor is Lava, except the lava is an angry corgi with a vendetta against ankles. Like, these cheese curds must have been legendary to still get a positive mention after a near mauling experience. Okay, so I'll throw out another wild review later on in the episode. So please take a second to click the subscribe button, and your future self will thank you when you crush your fantasy drafts. Probably. Okay, it's finally time to pop that top. The opening draft is here again, where I sip first, question my life choices second, and try not to spill beer on my notes while judging it mercilessly. Today's victim, a True Anomaly Ambrosia Reserve, brewed like a botanical garden had a weekend fling with a fruit stand. Got a beer that deserves this brutal scrutiny? Send it over to me at tapintofantasy@gmail.com. and it might just make the beer board at tapintofantasy.com. Last episode, I tried the Volfass Engelmann Jubilee Guinness and gave it a pour score of European Shrug in a glass. Yes, it was delightful, if by delightful one means a beverage that tastes like a damp Sunday morning in a library where someone sneezed into the sherry. One does admire its commitment to mediocrity. Alright, you can find, that was horrible, by the way, good lord. I tried to do that like an English person, but I just did it like a snobby, I don't even know. Alright, you can find all my beer adventures at untappd.com, username tapintofantasy. Follow me, I'll follow you. We'll have some epic beer selfie battles. Okay, the True Anomaly Ambrosia Reserve is a sour saison beer from Houston, Texas. In the pours I saw on Untappd, it literally looked like a rosé wine. The brewery says it's, however you say that word, fodder aged saison, re-fermented on blackberries and conditioned on ginger, lime, and rooibos tea. I almost fell asleep reading that. I need to go touch some grass now. All right, whatever, let's just pour the thing and see which part of the sour scale this lands on. So I have my sweet Boulevard tulip glass that I got in Kansas City at the brewery. All right, let's go ahead and pour this. See what this baby looks like. This is an easy pour. There's like 0 head on this, so there goes a little bit. Yeah, it's like ruby red. It almost looks like grapefruit juice in here. Wow, I haven't even put it up to my nose yet, and it smells like Warhead. Oh boy, that's sour. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna grow some balls and try to drink this thing. Wow, sour, that's sour. Oh man, alright. Well, I grabbed this thing because I thought a sour should make it on the podcast at some point. But good God, I should have gone with an entry-level one, not a make my face fold in on itself like a dying accordion sour. Whew. Okay, I will try to keep powering through this and give you my pour score at the end. Just know, I'm doing this for you. This is for all of you. Alright, now on to something a little less sour, the NFC North. You can find my full rankings at tapintofantasy.com. I'm updating them constantly, so keep checking in on them every week. I've gone over each of the 4 AFC West divisions and the NFC East, so go check out those episodes if you haven't. This episode, NFC North, the Bears, Lions, Packers, and Vikings. We can start with the Bears. Caleb Williams needs to take a big step forward with his nail paint and just have full memes on them. Like, imagine lining up under center with the crying Jordan staring at the D-line, or just let Tap Into Fantasy buy ads on his fingernails. Maybe coordinate them with the beer I just reviewed that week. Caleb also needs to take a step in his QB game. His percentage of poor throws per pass attempt, 34th last year, right behind Aiden O'Connell at 21.1%. Like, obviously, it was a clown show on offense last year with them deploying the wide receivers all wrong, offensive line just like disintegrating on plays. He did throw up some horrendous prayer balls though, and was just kind of generally inaccurate, much more than on his USC tape. I think he'll always have some of that, kind of like Trevor Lawrence sprays some balls, but he needs to play more free and kind of out of structure. Like, Ben Johnson should take care of that, and with upgraded pass catchers, I think he ultimately has a much better season. He just held on to the ball too long last year, and that led to a ton of sacks. I mean, check this image out that I have up. His pressure to sack ratio and average time to throw were abysmal. Like, I think he'll always have that as he's a creator, sort of like a Jaden Daniels type, but I think it can get at least better this year. They're going to do more play action and more rollouts with him, like this play I have up, which is just what he needs. I mean, that, gets him out of the pocket to where he can have an easy read. He just needs these easy throws, not worrying about pass rush or, just going through progressions, everything like that. He's also just an underrated scrambler. Like, he had almost 500 yards rushing last year. All that to say, he's a decent bet to break out this year with Ben Johnson. I'm aligned with the market on him at QB 13. It may be more up and down than you want for your starter, but he'll be much improved from last year. Another reason to bet on Caleb Williams is because the running back situation is just an avoid at all costs. Unless, the cost is 0, then it's a maybe. Swift is, I guess, set to lead the backfield, but this is the guy that new coach Ben Johnson got rid of for pennies on the dollar in Detroit. Last year, Swift finished RB 21 in points per game in PPR. That's basically his ceiling. Nobody trusts him on the goal line because he doesn't break tackles. Last year, he was 36th in yards after contact per attempt. The only time I could see drafting him is if he falls far enough in your home leagues and it's a PPR league, because they'll definitely design some screens and pass plays for him, so he could get a decent target share, and he still has some burst to him, so he could do some work on some short passing plays. He's a terrible pass blocker, so he won't be in on those plays. That'll be probably Roschon Johnson. Johnson and rookie Kyle Monangai will split with Swift on the ground to make this just a mess in fantasy. My guess is that they trust Johnson a little more than the rookie, so he could have the goal line snaps. He's not a horrible dart throw in best ball, but you're basically just hoping for a touchdown to even be relevant. Monangai is a 7th round rookie, so it's hard to envision him doing anything but just being kind of a pest to the snap share of the other two. The Bears have such a crowded pass catching room that it's tough to see any of them being huge difference makers. I do see Ben Johnson getting them in better positions to succeed this year, like having DJ Moore be more of a gadget, short passing game target rather than a deep threat. It seemed at times like Moore sort of gave up last year, and I think the coaches have been calling him out at points this summer. I think the coaches want Luther Burden to eventually take his exact spot, so I think he'll be sort of phased out of the wide receiver 1 role for Rome Odunze at some point. I expect Odunze to take a step. There's a growing buzz around him at camp. He was chosen that high by GM Ryan Poles for a reason. I mean, he had a very strong success rate versus man coverage last year, which is what you need as an X receiver, and he's their X receiver. He has some way to go against zone, but I mean, that comes with experience and knowing where to sit in routes. He's going in round 7 on ESPN. DJ Moore is going round 5. I give them both around the same shot to finish better than the other in fantasy. So just take the cheaper dude in Odunze. I think Olamide Zaccheaus is the wide receiver 3 in this offense. I think Luther Burden is somewhat of a project and more of a 2026 thing. I've been mostly staying away from Burden at his price in best ball, but I do think you could throw a dart at Zaccheaus late. I still don't really understand why Colston Loveland is going after Tyler Warren in fantasy. He was drafted higher, he's on a better offense, and he has the better QB. There is a good amount of target competition in the offense, but do you know what other rookie had that sort of situation? Sam Laporta, who was tight end 1 in his rookie year with Ben Johnson calling plays. I'm not saying Loveland will be tight end 1, but he was drafted 10th overall for a reason, and he'll be schemed touches in this offense. They don't have a running back to take a million carries, so this should be more of a passing team than Ben Johnson had with the Lions. Not to mention one of the easiest tight end schedules in the league. Loveland could easily ride those pass attempts to a top 8 finish. This episode is fueled by Dubby Energy. I've been using Dubby for a while now, whether I need that mid-afternoon kick or a little extra focus to power through a best ball draft. It's clean energy, no crash, no jitters, just the good stuff, so you don't feel guilty about it either. Check out the link in the description and use promo code TAPINTOFANTASY for 10% off your order. Dubby brings the energy, you bring the winning picks. Okay, let's head to Michigan and talk through those Detroit Lions. Drafting Jared Goff as a top QB again, that's a choice. Like buying sushi from a gas station. Jared Goff regression alert. Check out this tweet by Fantasy Points Data. Goff had the highest touchdown percentage of his career last year at 6.9%. League average is 4.3%. So I expect him to be much closer to average in 2025. If he was at 4.5% last year, that would have taken off 12 passing touchdowns, putting him at fantasy QB 16 for the year. He also lost not only his offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, but the passing game coordinator as well in Tanner Engstrand. His all-pro center, Frank Ragnow, retired. They're starting a rookie at guard or center. The red flags are everywhere for this offense, and although I think they have a nice floor, there's just too many warning signs to think he could be a top 10 QB again. Thankfully, he's only going QB 15 in your home leagues. That's still above a few QBs I like more than him this year, like Drake May and Jordan Love. He's a safe pick, definitely not a league-winning pick. So Jahmyr Gibbs is just a sick combination of elusiveness, tackle breaker, receiver, and speed to burn. Like, he was 7th in PFF's elusiveness rating last year, 10th in yards after contact, 3rd in 10-plus yard runs, and 2nd in yards per route run. Like, he's the jack of all trades. It should just be called the Jahmyr of all trades. I'm sorry for that joke. The only reason he's going 3rd among running backs is because David Montgomery poaches touchdowns, but I think the pendulum swings a little more towards Gibbs this year. Like, here's a graphic from ESPN's Mike Clay that shows the expected fantasy points for each running back compared to their actual points. So Gibbs overperformed at the highest rate in football. It's to be expected that he overperforms the average running back again because he's a beast. But you can expect a little regression this year in touchdowns and yards per carry. I wouldn't overthink it though and keep drafting him very high. David Montgomery is a pretty safe pick with limited upside. Like I said, I think he gets a few less touches per game this year with a new offensive coordinator, but he's still a safe bet for 10-plus touchdowns. I like him better in best ball because you're really just hoping for a touchdown to make him usable. He's also pretty valuable in standard leagues. But, I mean, in the weeks he doesn't score, you'll be pretty disappointed. Amon-Ra St. Brown, or the Sun God, as he's known on the streets, is just a terrible pick to be on a television commercial, as he has the personality of a dry biscuit. But he's a safe pick in fantasy, finishing 3rd each of the last 2 years and was 4th in yards per route run last year at 2.63. I do tend to think he's a little bit overvalued as he ran too hot on touchdowns to be sustainable. Again, I bring up this chart by Mike Clay from ESPN on regression. The Sun God was the biggest overachiever among wide receivers last year. He should have had 4 less touchdowns and 200 less yards. That would have put him around wide receiver 8. Like, I think he's a much safer pick than some of the wide receivers that are above him on this chart, but it's something to think about. I have him at wide receiver 7. He's going around wide receiver 5 on ESPN. I just think a few players going behind him, like Nico Collins and Drake London, have higher ceilings and comparable floors. So Jameson Williams has some nice highlight plays, but he's the definitive wide receiver 2 in an offense with a hyper-targeted wide receiver 1 in the Sun God, a highly targeted tight end when healthy in Sam Laporta, and just a heavy running team. I think Laporta will take a few targets from him this year, but Williams was the best yak player in the league last year. They'll want to keep feeding him on those short crossers and just let him cook. I think he'll be around 100 targets this year and just be an inconsistent wide receiver 3. I'm around market value on him, so you can definitely take some shots. It's too much of a running team to feel good about any other receiver, though. Sam Laporta just wasn't healthy much at all last year. He started the year with an ankle injury that slowed him down significantly, then had an AC joint sprain in week 10 that made him miss a game. But from week 12 on, it seemed like pretty much wheels up as he played a full complement of snaps and was tight end 6. Like, he's such a big weapon for this team, an explosive athlete when he's healthy. With the old top tight ends kind of declining with age, like Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, Laporta should be taken as tight end 4 this year. Like, the top 3 are in a tier of their own, but Laporta should be the best among the rest. If you're enjoying this blend of fantasy football and questionable beer metaphors, hit subscribe. It's cheaper than therapy after a bad draft and scientifically proven to be twice as effective. Alright, time to dive back into the scrolls of the booze realm with another Untappd review. This is another review about the brewery as a whole from Yelp. $8.50 for a 13-ounce 6% beer? F that. I can drink a better beer with a higher ABV for that. I am asked to say more stuff about a bad experience here, so I am just making up random stuff to satisfy your request. Blah, 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 blah. So forget the taste of the beer. Forget the atmosphere. This man's entire trauma is rooted in ABV to dollar ratios. Like, you can almost hear him whispering in the middle of those blahs. I could have bought a 12-pack of High Life for this. True pain is missed in buzz per dollar opportunities. Okay, let's move to the land of the cheese curds and discuss the Green Bay Packers. So Jordan Love is one of my favorite watches in all of football. The way he just backs up 3 steps, says F it, and throws YOLO balls at one-on-ones to the outside is just a thing of beauty. Like, being aggressive is something you need in a QB if they aren't going to scramble much. He did recently get surgery for a thumb injury, but it's on his non-throwing hand, so I'm not really that worried about it. He's pretty much completely healthy going into this year, which you couldn't say after week 1 of last year. He has an above-average offensive line who could be even better than that if things hit right, a great running game, and a bona fide number 1 receiver in Matthew Golden now. Last year he had a bunch of useful but not go-to receivers. They didn't have that someone who could win on a man coverage route on 3rd and 8 consistently. They had to be more run-heavy than they wanted because of Love's injuries last year. They were 3rd in the NFL at 50.69% run plays. So they only ran the 27th most plays in the NFL. Like, get this. In 2023, Dak Prescott was QB5. Jordan Love was QB6. In 2024, both were hurt for most of the year. In 2025, Dak's ADP is QB12. Love is at QB18. Love just has the better offensive environment, the better schedule. He's also hinted at running more this year, which he's athletic enough to do. Like, give me Love or give me death. Sorry, that was dramatic. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, I would definitely suggest you choose him. Alright, Josh Jacobs was one of the running backs I shouted out in my Running Backs I Love video a few weeks ago. I'm even higher on him now than I was then, with Marshawn Lloyd built like cardboard and breaking down every game. They still have Emmanuel Wilson, who did pretty well last year, but he's not going to eat into Jacobs' touches like Lloyd may have. Last year, Jacobs was the RB8 with a hobbled Jordan Love and a few games of Malik Willis. Like, think of how good the offensive environment will be this year with a first-round receiver added and a healthy Love. Like, he was 2nd behind Derrick Henry in broken tackles last year and 6th in rushes over 10 yards. Beyond injury, there's just no way he busts. Like, he's going right now behind Jonathan Taylor on ESPN as RB9. I would take him over Taylor. I would stay away from Lloyd in best ball. Like, he could easily be IR or even cut. Wilson isn't even being drafted in most best ball drafts, so he could be a nice last round random pick to make your team kind of unique. So if you've noticed, there's been a theme with the first few players in the Packers. It's not stopping now. I am all in on Matthew Golden. Yes, he had an underwhelming profile for a first-round pick, but he's exactly what this team needed. A receiver with true speed and separation skills that can win on intermediate and deep routes. I'm not sure if he's wide receiver 1 material yet, but he's the best they have already and is only going wide receiver 38 on ESPN in the 8th round. He's going to be the Packers' top receiver, and he has a QB that loves to throw deep. In 2023, Love's last healthy year, he was 6th in NFL in average depth of target. Golden is Love's dream wide receiver with his speed and his smooth route running ability. It would be tough to trust anyone else besides him in redraft. Like Jaden Reed could be a late round target, but he's missed most of training camp with toe and foot injuries. He's also only a slot player on this team, so he's capped at around 60 to 70% of snaps. Romeo Doubs is pretty much the definition of a sacrificial X. He plays more snaps than Reed, but was wide receiver 51 in points per game. There hasn't been much news on Christian Watson yet, but he'll probably be ready to go from a torn ACL sometime mid-season. You could draft him late in best ball drafts to have just something different come playoff time. The same with Dontavian Wicks, but just the vibes have been off with him, so I don't really feel as good about that pick. So Tucker Kraft is my most drafted tight end this summer. Like, he lapped the field last year in highest yards after catch per reception among tight ends and had the 8th most red zone targets. He's one of the few tight ends just with the athletic ability to graduate to an elite tight end at some point. And there's enough questions at wide receiver with injuries and overall talent that Kraft could legitimately become the 1B to Matthew Golden in this offense. The offense as a whole will just have more plays, as I stated earlier, because they'll pass the ball more. So that means more targets for Kraft. Per FanDuel, Kraft averaged 12.7 points per game when Doubs was out last year. This year it's Christian Watson out for half or more of the year, so the same effect could happen. You can grab him in round 9 of home leagues. That's a steal, guys. All right, if you've liked all the football and beer that I've spewed at you today, please leave a review for the pod. It's going to be hard to squeeze out a smile while my face is puckered so hard from this warhead-like beer, but just know that I appreciate it. Okay, the last team in the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin O'Connell is definitely a QB whisperer if he can take a scatter shot like Sam Darnold and turn him into a top 10 QB, even with the elite weapons they have. With that said, I think all the moves they've made this offseason just point to the fact they want to run the ball more. They have 3 new offensive linemen, one of them being their first-round pick. They traded for Jordan Mason, who's always shown the ability to run between the tackles at a high level. All those moves may be because their new QB only had 713 attempts in college and is essentially a rookie this year. Like, do you know how many attempts Bo Nix had? 1,936. He's an unpolished rookie expected to lead a team that's ready to compete now. Jordan Addison is suspended the first 3 games. The Vikings are connected to trading for all sorts of receivers because of injury troubles. I just don't love the optics of it right now, or the fact that he's going above Jordan Love on ESPN at QB 17. He could definitely end up as a decent QB2, but he could also show rookie inconsistencies and be QB 28. He also has one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. Go with the known commodity in Love over him, and you likely won't regret it. So I think this backfield is more of a 50-50 split than some people realize. Aaron Jones is going to be 31 by the end of this year. They'll want to lessen his workload so they can weaponize him if they do make the playoffs. He should get the more valuable touches in the passing game, though. Jordan Mason has never been a passing game guy. He'll be the grinder between the tackles and could even see the goal line work, or at least share it. I think Mason will have more carries than Jones, especially between the 20s. The Vikings had one of the worst run games in the league last year at negative .08 EPA per play. That was 26th in the NFL. So they're trying to beef up the O-line to take the pressure off a rookie QB. So I don't mind taking shots at this backfield. Like Aaron Jones goes a little higher than I would want given his age and injury history at RB24 on ESPN. But Jordan Mason, I feel like he's mispriced at 39. I would cash that check in my home league every time. Justin Jefferson is still arguably the best receiver in the league, but when we're talking about first rounders, you have to poke holes at every little thing because there are other equally talented receivers and running backs in the same range. So Jefferson was wide receiver 4 in points per game last year with a huge career year by Sam Darnold. You're just hoping J.J. McCarthy has anywhere near the years Sam Darnold did last year. He threw for over 4,300 yards. Like I said before, I think the Vikings run more this year to take pressure off their rookie QB. That means it could be even less volume for Jefferson than he had in his wide receiver 4 year. He's going wide receiver 2 on ESPN. So I've been taking CeeDee Lamb over him all summer with just more pass attempts to go around and a proven QB. Jefferson's also been dealing with a soft tissue injury in camp, and while it seems like he's back now, I'd keep an eye on that. Jordan Addison is a great complement to Jefferson on the outside, but he's gotten a little lucky on touchdowns his first 2 years in the NFL. He starts the year with a 3-game suspension. He should regress in touchdowns. He has one of the toughest schedules in the NFL, and he has a new QB who could be eased into the year with lower pass attempts than we're used to from a Vikings QB. Right now he goes ahead of Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, and the rising Emeka Egbuka. I don't think he's worth the headache of covering for him for 3 games at his current price. So the next guy up seems to be Jalen Nailor, and he may be a usable guy in deeper formats while Addison is suspended. He's someone I've clicked on a few times in best ball, as well as rookie Ty Felton. Felton and Addison left with injuries at the time of this recording, so yeah, just make sure to keep an eye on them. I'm going to give the same caveats to TJ Hawkinson as I did with the other positions on this team. I think this team runs the ball more, so there will be less targets to go around. But Hawkinson could just be McCarthy's comfy for the first part of the season, giving him a nice target in the middle of the field. He's still only 28 years old, so squarely in his prime. He should have his explosiveness back after his ACL injury in 2023. I haven't been taking much of him in drafts because I either go with one of the 3 elites at the top or wait until later rounds. But I'm with the market at tight end 5 for him. He's definitely a nice target if you want a set it and forget it tight end. Okay, I hope you got something useful out of this NFC North breakdown. I'll do one more sip of this True Anomaly Ambrosia Reserve and I will make my conclusion. I'm torn because I'm not a sour beer lover at all. It has to be very entry-level sour for me to even enjoy it a little bit. So I can see how this is a good sour. It's just so freaking sour that it's hard for me to even sip through. Okay, I think I'm going to put this at number 6 on the big beer board, just ahead of the Shipyard Pumpkinhead Ale. I think I could only have like one of these a week. It's puckering my butthole so hard, but I can get how it's a very good sour. It's very smooth, and when you take little sips, it's actually pretty nice. I can kind of take it. Alright, but that's going to do it for this episode of Tap Into Fantasy. If you liked what you heard, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps the show find other degenerates like you. Hit me up on X at LG_fantasy. Thanks for tapping in, and until next time, happy pours, happy scores.